Hello guys, welcome back again to another tutorial. Welcome back again to my channel. My name is Dorothy. In today's video, I'll be sharing with you how I cut and sew this beautiful gown that I'm putting on right now. It is a beautiful straight gown or pencil gown that has a slit at the back. It has a one-off shoulder neckline or asymmetrical neckline with collar attached to it and a beautiful long balloon sleeve. So if this is something you are interested in, please watch this video to the very end so you don't miss out on any detail or explanation. Now let's get started with the video. The material that I'll be using for this tutorial is this beautiful black and white stripe fabric. It is a crepe fabric and this material is quite stretchy. So if you can't get this type, you can use any fabric of your choice. And also I have this plain white chiffon fabric that I use for the collar and also for the sleeve. So you can simply work with any fabric of your choice. So now let's go ahead and draft our pattern. I will be doing it directly on the fabric. So what I will do, I'll keep this chiffon aside while we work on this stripe black and white fabric, and I'll be folding this into two so that we can draft the front pattern. Okay, so guys, this is what I have after I was done folding out the portion of fabric that we'll be using to draft the front pieces. And as you can see, this is already folded into two. So go ahead and do the same thing. Fold your fabric into two just the way you see me do. Now to get the measurement for your front fold, okay, that's the front pieces, especially when you're cutting from a larger fabric, you simply use your biggest body measurement. And because since it's a long dress, the biggest body measurement here is my hip. So I divided my hip by 4, then I added about 3 to 4 inches sewing allowance to it. Then I cut this out from the larger fabric. Okay, now I'm going to use my pin to secure all the edges so that when I'm drafting it doesn't shift or move. Although this fabric is not shaky or silky, but for accuracy I went on to arrange the edges properly and I used my pin to secure it. After securing the fabric with office pin, the next thing I'm going to do is to use my scissors to trim off this edge. So this edge that I am trimming out is going to serve as the starting line or the shoulder line. From the starting line or shoulder line, I'm going to place my measuring tape like this to mark all the vertical points, which are the bust points, the waistline, the hip line, and the total length of the dress. Now from my shoulder to my bust point is 10 inches. I mark that. Then from the shoulder to the waistline is 16 inches. I mark that as well. From the shoulder to the hip line is 24 inches. I mark that. Then the total length of this gown that I am working on is 45 inches and I mark that as well. Now I'm going to use my straight ruler to connect all these points that I have marked horizontally. On this start line right here, I'm going to mark half of my shoulder measurement. My shoulder measurement is 15 inches. I divided it by 2 and half of it is 7.5, so I marked it. After that, the next thing we are going to be doing is to mark the neckline measurement. So the neck width that I am working with is 3.5 while the neck depth is 3 inches. Now I am going to use my chalk to connect these 2 points together to create a round neckline. You can basically use your free hand to create the round neckline just the way you see me doing, or if you have your French curve ruler you can use it as well. To mark the armhole line on the shoulder point here, I'm going to come down by 8 inches and I will make a mark there. Then I'll use my ruler to connect these 2 points together on a straight line. So this straight line is the armhole line and I'm going to extend this line horizontally, and the horizontal line is going to serve as the chest line. On this armhole line, I'm going to divide it by 2 and I'll mark the midpoint. On this midpoint, I will come in by half an inch. Then on the chest line, I'm going to divide my round bust measurement by 4 and I'll mark it. The round bust measurements that I am working with is 36. 36 divided by 4 is 9, so I mark that on the chest line. Now I am going to use my free hand to connect these 3 points together to create the armhole curve. If you have a French curve or an armhole curve, you can use your armhole curve to do this as well. To slanten the shoulder, on the armhole line I'm going to come down by half an inch and I'll make a mark there. Then I'll use my free hand to connect a slant line from this point all the way to the neckline just like this. this. Now let's mark the body measurements. Here on the bust point line, I'm going to divide my round bust measurement by 4 and I'll mark it. Then I added 1 inch sewing allowance to it, and I also add 1 inch sewing allowance on the chest line. On the waistline, I'm going to do the same thing as well. I'll simply divide my round waist measurement by 4 and I'll mark it. The round waist measurement that I am working with is 30. 30 divided by 4 is 7.5. Then I added 1 inch sewing allowance to it. On the hip line, I will also do the same thing. I will simply divide my round hip measurement by 4 and I'll mark it. Then I will add 1 inch sewing allowance to it. The round hip measurement that I am working with is 40. 40 divided by 4 is 10. So I marked 10 inches and I added 1 inch sewing allowance to it. Then on this length of the dress, I'll simply minus 1 inch from my hip measurement and I'll mark it. The hip measurement that I mark is 10 inches minus 1 is 9. So I mark 9 inches on this length. Then I add 1 inch sewing allowance to it and mark it as well. Now I'm going to use my freehand to connect all these points that I have marked together to create the body shape. One thing about this dress that I am making is that it doesn't have a dart, and this is because the material that I am working with is stretchy. It's more of a kind of bodycomb material. So if you are working with a material that is not stretchy or has little stretch, do well to take your dart. Okay, now let's go ahead and cut this out. So this is all for the drafting of the front pieces. So the next I'm going to do is to fold another portion of fabric that I'll be using for the back pieces. Now I'm going to keep this front piece aside while we try to work on the back pieces. So guys, this is what I have after I was done folding the fabric that I will be using to draft the back pieces. And as you can see, this fabric is on fold. So the next thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to place these front pieces on these back pieces like this. I'll make sure that I arrange everything properly. Everything should align, and I'm going to leave an allowance at the center back of the back piece, and this allowance is going to serve as the zipper allowance, just the way you see. Now I'm going to use my office pin to pin these two pieces together so that it stays in place. As for the allowance that I left for my zipper, I left about 1 inch zipper allowance, and I measure from up to down just to make sure that it's 1 inch. Then on the waistline, I'm going to extend the line on the waist at the center back like this. Now to eliminate any form of zipper bulge on that waistline, I'm going to go in by ½ an inch. Then I will use my ruler to connect this point like this to the hip line, and I will also extend this line upward towards the neckline, just the way you see me do. Now for the back neckline, the neck width remained 3.5 inches, while the neck depth, I came down by 2 inches and I make a mark there. Please know that this is not the actual neckline that we'll be working with. We are going to alter this neckline later in this video to get the actual neckline that you saw on the thumbnail, okay? Now I'm going to use my freehand to connect these 2 points together to create a round neckline for the back piece. Then I will go ahead to cut this out. And this is basically all for the drafting and cutting of the front and back pieces. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to head over to the sewing machine to stitch the zipper allowance. So guys, this is what I have after I was done sewing the zipper allowance. I didn't sew up everything. I left about 10 inches opening for the slit, which means that the stitch stopped at 32 inches. Now to work on the one-off shoulder neckline or the asymmetrical neckline, I'm going to arrange the both pieces together, right side facing each other, just the way you see me do. Then I'm going to use my office pin to hold the both shoulder together. After pinning your shoulders, now you have to decide which of the shoulder you have to cut off. For me, I'll be cutting this side. So from this point, I came down by 5 inches and I make a mark there. Now I'm going to use my free hand to create a curvy line. From this point, I came down by 5 inches on this shoulder all the way to this other shoulder here. Now let's cut this out. So guys, this is what I have after I was done cutting off this shoulder. So the next I'm going to do, I'm going to head over to the sewing machine to stitch up this shoulder. Then to join the bodies, I'm going to arrange these two pieces together, that's the front and the back pieces, to mark my body measurements. So here on the bust point line, I'm going to divide my round bust measurement by 2 and I'll mark this on the both side. So go ahead and do the same thing. Go ahead and mark your own body measurements divided by 2. Then on the waistline, I'm going to do the same thing as well. I'll simply divide my round waist measurement by 2 and I'll mark it on both sides. My round waist measurement is 30 divided by 2 is 15 inches. So I mark the 15 inches on both sides, taking note of the sewing allowance that I left, which is 1 inches when I was drafting. Then on the hip line, I'm going to do the same thing likewise. Okay, so I'll divide my round hip measurement by 2 and I'll mark it on both sides. Okay, my round hip measurement is 40 divided by 2 is 20, so I mark 20 inches as my measurement. Then for the length of the dress, I'm going to do the same thing as well. I'm going to divide the measurement that I use for the length by 2 and I'll mark it at the length, just the way you see me doing. After that, I'm going to use my chalk to connect all those points together to form the body shape. Now I will head over to the sewing machine and join the both side. So guys, this is what I have after I was done joining the shoulder and the both side. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to keep this aside while we work on the sleeve. I already cut out the portion of fabric that I'll be using for the sleeve, and the total length of the sleeve that I'm working with is 23 inches. So right here I have about 20 inches for this big one. So the remaining 3 inches, we are going to cut that on the band that will be attaching to the sleeve, and I already cut that right here. So for this part of the sleeve, I'm going to go ahead and run a gather stitch, but before I do that, let's create the sleeve armhole. So here I'm going to use my chalk to curve out my sleeve armhole just the way you see me doing. So go ahead and do the same thing if you already know how to create a sleeve armhole curve. To get the actual measurement of the armhole that we are working with, I will simply measure the armhole on the dress just the way you see me doing. I'll do this as many times as possible to make sure that the figures are accurate, and after measuring it here, I had about 9.5 inches. You can also confirm the other armhole to make sure that the both armhole are equal. After measuring it, I'm going to place my measuring tape like this and measure it on the sleeve just the way you see me doing, and I'm going to mark the figure that I have there, which is 9.5. Then I added 1 inch sewing allowance to it just in case. So I'll use my chalk to connect a line all the way to the length of the sleeve, because I'm working with a gathered sleeve at the hemline, so there is no need to measure the round sleeve measurements or the wrist measurements. So I'm just going to cut this out. I decided not to follow the line from the beginning because I want the gather at the length to be really full. So if you want, you can follow the line, but for me, I just want fuller gathered at the length. So guys, this is what the sleeve looked like after I was done cutting it out. So now I'm going to run it gathered at this length of the sleeve like this. Then I'll face this band to the gathered. I hope you understand what I am saying. If you don't, you'll get to understand as we progress in this video. Now I am going to fold this sleeve back and I'm going to place the sleeve on another fabric to cut the second one out. You know that we are working with two different types of sleeve. The second one is an off shoulder sleeve. Okay, so guys, this is what I have after I was done cutting out the second sleeve. So I'm going to place this one aside while we work on the off shoulder sleeve. So from the sleeve cap here, I'm going to come down by 5 inches and I'm going to make a mark there. After that, I'm going to use my curve ruler to create a curvy line just the way you see me doing. You can decide to make this slant, but for me, I just want it a little bit curvy around the shoulder. Now let's cut this out. So this is what our off shoulder sleeve looked like after I was done cutting. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine and I'm going to run a loose stitch at the length of the sleeve, and I'm going to do the same thing to the second sleeve as well. And as for these pieces that I'm going to use for the band, I'm going to iron paper stay on it. This is what I have after I was done ironing paper stay on the pieces, as you can see. And I also went on to fold about 1/2 inch in just the way you see, and I use my iron to do this. Now I'm going to fold this back, right side facing each other, and I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine to join the both side, and I'll do the same thing to the second pieces as well. This is what I have after I was done sewing the both side, and I also did the same thing to the second pieces as well. So now I'm just going to turn this over to the right side just the way you see me doing. As for this sharp edge, maybe you can use your scissors to push the sharp edge out, and I did the same thing to the other pieces as well. Now I'm going to take this over to this ironing table to iron this flat. As for the sleeve itself, I've already run the gathered stitch or the loose stitch at the line. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick one of the thread and I'll pull it to form the gathers. As it looks now, it seems that I've already created the gathered, but no, when I was making the gather stitch, the machine was already gathering this part. That's why it's looking as if I've already created the gathers. This is what I have after I was done ironing the band. One thing with ironing, it makes your work a lot neater and easy. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to place the sleeve on the band like this, on this part that I didn't fold on the band. Then I'm going to use my office pin to hold it all the way around, just the way you see me doing. I'm going to pin this all the way until it gets to the last edge of the band. After I am done pinning, I'm going to head over to the sewing machine to stitch this part, and this other edge that I folded, I'm going to pull the rough edges in like this. Then I'll use this other side to cover it just the way you see me doing. So I'm going to do this and bring it so I see what we have, and I will do the same thing to the second sleeve as well. So guys, this is what I have after I was done stitching the band to the sleeve. You can see how neat it looks, and I also did the same thing to the second sleeve as well. So the both sleeves are now ready. Now we are going to fix the sleeve to the dress. Before I fix the sleeve to the dress, the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to notch the midpoint of the sleeve. So I'll simply fold the sleeve into two like this, then I will notch the midpoint. After I'm notching, I'm going to place this notch part of the sleeve on the sleeve shoulder cap. That is this point where the shoulder joining is. So I'm just going to place the notch part of the sleeve like this, then I'm going to use my pen to hold it. Now I'm going to arrange the sleeve on the dress armhole like this, and I'm going to use my pin to secure it, and I will do this all the way around. So go ahead and do the same thing the best possible way you know how to fix your sleeve on a dress. So go ahead and do it. Now I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew it. As for the side of the sleeve, I'm just going to fold it up like this, then I'll go ahead and sew it as well. As for this other side of the sleeve, that is the off shoulder part of the sleeve, I'm just going to do the same thing as well. I'll simply place the armhole on the sleeve on the armhole of the dress, then I'll use my pin to secure it, and I'll do the same thing to the other side as well. I'll simply place the armhole of the sleeve on the armhole of the dress and I'll pin it out, and then I'll pin it also as well. After I am done pinning, I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine to sew it. Then for the side of the sleeve, I'm just going to arrange it like this, okay, right side facing each other, then I will stitch this side as well. Let me go and do this and bring it so that you see what we have. This is what I have after I was done joining the sleeve to the dress, and for the side of the sleeve I went on to stitch it as well, just like I said, and I did the same thing to the other side as well. Let me turn this over to the right side so that you see what it looks like on the right side. This is what I have it looking like on the right side. You can see how beautiful this looks. So the next thing we'll be working on is the collar, and I'll be using these pieces to draft the collar. If you have a pattern paper, you can go ahead and use a pattern paper, but you can do this directly on the fabric. Now I'm going to arrange the neckline properly, then I'll place it on these pieces just the way you see me doing. Then you can go ahead and use a pin to hold it down, or if you have any object that can hold this together so that it stays in place, go ahead and place it on it, okay? For me, I'll be using my office pin to secure the both pieces together so that it doesn't shift when I am tracing the neckline of the dress on this piece. Now I am going to use my chalk to now trace the neckline on the piece just the way you see me doing. So just follow the same process as you see me do, and we are all going to arrive at the same result. After tracing out the neckline, I'm just going to remove the pins from the dress, and here is how the neck cuff or the neck collar curve is looking like. You can see how it looks. So I'm just going to use my chalk to trace out this pattern properly so that it can become more visible. Now you have to determine the length of your collar. For me, I'll be working with 3 inches, so I'll place my tape proof on this tip like this, then I'll mark 3 inches, and I'll mark the 3 inches all around this mark like this. To create the V shape on the sleeve, from this point I'm going to come down by 7 inches and I'll mark it. If you want yours longer, you can do 9 inches or 10 inches. For me, I'll be working with 7 inches. So I'm just going to place my tape rule in a slanted form like this and mark it. Then I'll use my free hand to connect this point together in a kind of slanted form. This line is not straight, it's just slanted a bit. Then from this line here, I'm just going to curve it like this to meet this point just the way you see. Then for this collar edge, I'm just going to curve it like this. I don't want it sharp. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. This is what we have our collar looking like. Now I'm going to place this on another pieces to cut 3 pieces out. This is going to be for the front piece, so we will need to cut the back piece out, and we are going to lining this out, so we'll cut the 2 pieces for the lining as well. So let me go and do this and bring it so that you see what we have. This is what we have after we are done cutting the 4 pieces. Now I'm going to iron paper gum on these pieces so that it gives this fabric a little bit of strength. This is what I have after I was done ironing soft paper gum on it. You will not notice it because the paper gum is white and the fabric that I'm working with is white. So now I'm going to place each of these pieces right side facing each other. Now I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew the side that you see me directing, and I'll do the same thing to the second pieces as well. So let me go and do this and bring it so that you see what we have. Now I am done joining the both side of the collar. It's now one piece, so this one piece can now go around the neckline of the dress, and this other piece is going to serve as the lining. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to place this piece and the lining piece together right side facing each other, and I'm going to head over to the sewing machine to join the length of the piece. This is what I have after I was done joining the length of the collar. The next thing I'm going to do is to turn this over to the right side. After I'm done turning this over to the right side, I'm going to take this to the ironing table and iron it flat. This is what I have after I was done ironing. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to place this collar around the neckline of the dress. But before I do that, I'm going to turn this dress to the wrong side. After turning the dress to the wrong side, the next thing that I'm going to do is to fix the collar, and I'll be merging the joining between the shoulder and the joining on the collar both on each other. Then I'm going to use my pin to hold it. Now I'm going to use my office pin to pin this collar on the dress neckline all the way, just the way you see me doing. And after that, I'm going to head over to the sewing machine to stitch this down. This is what I have after I was on sewing the collar. You can see how beautiful and how neat this looks. And I also went ahead to weave all the edges of the dress so that it stays neat. Because I am working with a fabric that is stretchy, I can comfortably wear this dress without putting zipper. If you are working with a fabric that is not as stretchy as this, do well to fix your zipper. And the way you can do this, on your zipper allowance, you are going to come down by 3 inches. Then you are going to lose the remaining zipper allowances. That is the space you left for your zipper. Then go ahead and fix your zipper. You know, because of the collar, the zipper will not get to the neckline, and I will advise that you use an invisible zipper for this. Thank you so much for watching this video to this point. See you all in my next one.